Gabriel Davies from Downland Graphics, and in this short series of tutorials I'm going to be sharing with you some of the basic painting and drawing skills I've learned and acquired over the years. We're going to start with the very simplest of tools. Even if you're new to drawing or you've done some, go back over and think what you've used to make marks with. One of the first that ever came to light was the simple charcoal stick, which man could just pick up from the fire and use on walls or parchment or skins. It makes a lovely strong bold mark, very dark, or you can use it to shade, and it can be smudged. You can get a lot of effects. You can even put water in with it with a brush. It's a very versatile implement, but a little messy maybe for the beginner because your drawings will need to be fixed, but more of that later. Often the best thing to start with is the basic graphite pencil, which you can buy in art shops, and they range from hard to soft. There are quite a few. I find a good starter one is the 2B. It's nice and soft but not too soft, and it's easy to erase. You can use it for strong marks and shading, as you'll all have seen in different drawings from around the world. And it can also be used with the putty rubber, which can be moulded and held in the hand whilst you're drawing. You can get a very fine point with it, and you can use that to make interesting erasing marks and take away some of the lines you've drawn in that way. And then sometimes when you've got used to drawing a bit, we sometimes use the dip pen and ink, and that can be used with brushes to get different effects. A very enjoyable way to draw when you're a little bit more confident, and often shading is done with cross hatching and also with ink and wash again. So that's another technique that we'll go into later. So those are the three things I started with when I started out at art college, and I'll share them with you over the next few weeks. Drawing a still life. This is an example of one I did in pencil, the subject being pumpkins and sunflowers. And the drawing measures about 8 inches by 6 inches. I'm going to show you some of the simplest forms that you might choose to do a still life. My first tip is don't make anything too difficult for yourself to do. Just choose a very simple object. You could start with a circular object like an apple, a little box, and other things like that. Now in nature, everything can be broken down, however much you think it looks complicated, into 3 simple shapes. They'll all be made up of circles, squares, or triangles. Now you go around and you think, the world certainly doesn't look like that. But it's very interesting that you can make a picture out of simple objects like that to help you see all the objects around you are made up of those simple forms. And as you go along you'll understand that clearer, and it helps you to understand forms and structure and perspective if you see things in these simple ways. Now I've taken today an apple, which is very much circular, and a little box, which is square, and a little pyramid, which is triangular. You'll find more triangles when you go out and do landscapes, because obviously a lot of trees are triangles. But today we're going to try a still life using these shapes. When you decide to draw a still life, one of the things you want to start thinking about is how you're going to describe the object. Now an apple, being circular pretty much, has an outline, the way I'm looking at it now. And if I want to draw that apple using line only, then I'm going to choose the most obvious lines I can see and try to describe them. That's your basic conundrum with drawing, is whether to use line alone or what we call tone. Now looking at the apple again, we can see that light falls on this side of it and it's darker on this side, and also there is a shadow where it sits on the surface. What we describe as tone is the difference between that value there, which is very light, and that value which is the darkest that I can see. These are called the tonal values or the tonal range. And in drawing we can either choose to ignore the light and dark for the start of this drawing, or we can choose to do a tonal drawing. I tend to use tone a lot in my drawing, so I decide in the image I'm making where is the darkest area, and in this one I see it is beneath the form to the left, and using my pencil I start to darken the drawing down to give a dark tonal value which I see around the edge of this apple here.